to Leaders in Action Looking Ahead. I'm Robin Turmingham of the Olderhood Group, and my guest today is Dr. Patricia Davidson, Johns Hopkins University Dean of the School of Nursing. Thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. I know how busy you are. Today, we're going to have a very brief discussion regarding promoting women's cardiac health, both locally and globally. And I know that this is a subject that's very dear to your heart personally.
Absolutely. It's such a critical issue to consider, particularly in the context of COVID-19 and what's happening in the world.
Indeed. So start us off. Why are women's cardiac health issues different from men?
It really starts from the fact that the world has advanced amazingly, and we talk about epidemiological transitions, and this is what it means, that we've moved from a time up until COVID-19 where people died of infectious diseases and lived to an older age where they have more chronic conditions such as heart disease and diabetes. And so the initial research on heart disease was actually done by men.
Okay.
Done by men in men. So all of the studies were really done on the physiological basis of men's physiology and also men's social roles. So one of the things that is increasingly important across the healthcare sphere, particularly as we look at personalized medicine, is to think about sex-based differences and gender-based differences. Mm-hmm. So sex-based differences are our physiology and how we're born, and our gender-based differences are related to social determinants of health and how our roles have evolved in society. So it's really only probably in the last 20 years or so that it's been recognized that heart disease is not only the biggest killer in women, but the presentation and the physiology can also be different.
That's very interesting. Do you think globally there's somewhat of a stigma about talking about women's heart health?
Well, I think any health condition brings a stigma. And I think a lot of it is that women don't think that they're vulnerable and susceptible to heart disease.
Because it's men who have heart attacks.
It's because it's men who have heart attacks.
Right.
And even though there's been some amazing movements such as the Go Red for Women initiative that is run by the American Heart Association and most other organizations that are part of the World Heart Federation, but often, even for men, our image of a heart attack is what they call it, the Hollywood heart attack, where a man clasps his chest and falls to the ground very dramatically. But even in men, those symptoms are not always exactly the same. But we know in women that the symptoms can be different, and particularly in older women.
So why do we need to think about how to improve cardiac outcomes for women?
So, Robin, that is really an excellent question. And this is where the gender issue really comes into play. What we know from the literature, not only are women physiologically susceptible to heart disease, but also their gender-based roles really stop them from taking care of themselves. It's often the caregiver role that women engage in, either as mothers, sisters, brothers, aunts, and taking care of people in the family. Mm-hmm. So women neglect their own health to look after other people in their family. And we also know that women generally, of my generation anyway, I think it's great to look at my daughter's generation and others, have a much higher self-efficacy for exercise. When I was growing up, I can't remember any of my mother's friends going to the gym or
never
or anything like that. But fortunately, for the younger generation, that's changing. But there's also some factors in the world that are increasing women's risk factors for heart disease. So obesity is one, diabetes, just being physically inactive is really challenging. And then, of course, in the midst, we've thrown in COVID-19 that has just disrupted the world in every shape or form. Many women have lost their jobs. Many people have left the workforce. And also many women have an increased enroll strain because not only are they trying to keep their job, keep their family together, but also homeschooling and other issues. So it's an interesting condition of women.
You're so right about COVID-19 because, of course, increased stress levels as a result of all the things you just mentioned are certainly not going to be good for women's cardiac health. Let's think about this from a global perspective. What needs to happen here globally so that women's heart health locally is positively influenced?
Robin, that is an excellent question. And I think as we're in Women's History Month, of last week we had International Women's Day. I think health and wealth are linked. And I'm not talking about wealth of driving a Maserati or, jetting around the world, is that the economic empowerment of women, I think, is just so fundamental to changing many things in society. And so unless women have economic security, they're always going to be vulnerable. And then the other thing we've seen in COVID-19 is the increasing prevalence of gender-based violence.
Yeah,
that related to women's lack of economic security and empowerment.
So what you're really saying then is that when a woman's self-worth improves, then her health outcomes improve.
Yes, absolutely. And not just her health outcomes, but the outcomes of her children and her family, and as a consequence, society. And that's why many development organizations around the world really focus on the health and well-being of women, because we know if a mother is educated, her children are going to be educated. If a mother knows that immunization is important, she will have her children immunized. If a mother understands the importance of good nutrition, her children will have good nutrition. So as we know, I think men and women play an equal role in the importance of society, but because of generational factors, many areas of the world, there are gross inequities and disparities in the role of women in society.
Trish, this is a fascinating conversation. What's your key message for everybody?
I look at my career and my commitment to the advancement of women and, the advancement of health and society. So in my little world as a professor and a teacher, I feel like education is what I can do to empower women around the world. And so everywhere I've gone, and particularly at Johns Hopkins, we really take it seriously of being able to educate women around the world. So we know if we can have women with college degrees, that is going to accelerate the productivity and also the gross domestic product of society. So I think no matter where we are in the world, if everybody is valued, if everybody is respected
equally, yes,
that's where we need to go. But at the moment, we need tailored and targeted strategies because it's not an equal playing field. And so in some areas of the world, we really need to have some very dedicated interventions to make sure that women actively participate in society. And as a consequence, live to an age where they can have heart disease. And I know that sounds trite, but in many areas of the world, women still die in childbirth. Women are murdered for many reasons, and there is such violence against women. So I think, an educated world where people are respected, valued, and included is just such an important message for every aspect of health.
I completely concur. Thank you so much, Trish, for taking time to chat with me today. You've been watching Leaders in Action Looking Ahead. If you have a comment or a question about the series, you can reach out to us at Bill, that's BILL, at olderhood.com. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care, everyone.